Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another concert review. We're going to take a look back at the Dream Theater concert in New York City, Radio City Music Hall, March the 22nd. In the co-captain's chairs, the two guys who joined me at this monumentous occasion, my brother Rich Pardo and Mr. Rick LaBonte, who came all the way down from Ontario to go see the show.
Yes, I did.
Gotta love it.
11 days after I seen the Toronto show.
That's right. That's right. So why not catch them twice on this tour?
Why
Especially
not?
they change things around ever so subtly, right? You know?
Yes, they did. I mean, there was 18 songs played in Toronto and 16 here at New York. And the difference is they played some of these songs in the previous nights, but what we saw in New York had one surprise song that they've never played live. The discography with featuring Mike Portnoy for the encore. We'll talk about that very soon.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'll read you the list of Toronto, and if you guys want to read the New York list, I have them as well. But you can see the difference. But overall, both amazing shows for me. If you were to follow those guys on Facebook, it was very special. Up to that point in Toronto, Mike was saying that was his favorite, show up to that leg of the tour. Of course, New York was an extra special, and that was the best show for him. But for James, being a Canadian like myself, he was so proud of Toronto and Montreal being the amount of people showed up. I mean, I'm telling you guys, Toronto is a much bigger place than what I saw in New York. And there was an arena called Coca-Cola Coliseum, and it was full. And it was like that's where they should always be, in a big arena and a big, the band is so good. It should be in big places like that.
So Rick, was
And
that like a hockey arena? Like 15
very good. Yes,
seats,
sir.
something like
Yeah,
that? Okay.
very
Wow.
much like a
That's
hockey
good.
arena.
Yeah, I
So,
guess it depends on the market, right? Because you talk to people around the country and they talk about, oh, I saw Dream Theater in like a 2,000 seater or something like that. And then,
yes,
now we got this show in New York and the one in Canada. So I guess it all
maybe.
depends, where
Yeah,
they're
the
coming
only
from.
difference is there's only two shows in Canada, and I met people who flew from Calgary, from Alberta to BC, British Columbia, to go to the Toronto show, knowing that that's the only two shows that are coming in Canada. They were more accessible in the US, so therefore that will affect the people draw. But mind you, we were in the audience in the lineup, and we met people that were, came all the way from Denmark, and a couple of people I met that went to the Radio City Hall as the reason to come to New York was Dream Theater was there, and especially being at the last one, special because let's face it, everybody but James was raised in New York, so this was a homecoming show,
Yeah.
and so to wrap up the great tour, which they can have a little of a break, and then they go back out doing that. So they did Europe and South America, and they came to U.S. fully, well rehearsed, an oil machine as far as this new production, and of course they delivered, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. And so Rich, we've now had the pleasure of seeing a couple shows in Radio City. Um, I have to think this one maybe was a little bit more special than the last one, even though the last one was
No,
damn special. Um,
no. Without a doubt, this was better.
yeah,
This was
yeah,
actually one of the my favorite shows that they played next to Scenes from a Memory. That was my favorite at the Hammerstein Ballroom.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that was the top show I've ever seen, but this was up there. I thought they were fantastic.
yeah,
Like,
You guys saw the one when they videotaped it and it's on a DVD that I own long before I met you guys.
yep.
Um, I have always loved that show, and that was at the Radio City Hall and filmed, I believe, 2006, if I'm correct, around that
Yeah,
time.
it was got 20 years ago, just about, right?
yep.
Yes, so
Crazy.
talk about history right there. And I thought that was a magnificent performance. And for you to say what you're saying, I'm glad I would witness it. One, it was great to meet you, Rich, in person and to hang out with you. You're a fun guy. You definitely know your Dream Theater. I'm glad I went with somebody that loved Dream Theater. Pete and I went to a show when I was opening up for Pat Travers and Vanilla Fudge of the Sea Tranquility Fest. But this is the first time him and I go there where we didn't have to work that day, just to enjoy. But it was great to see how many people that went up to Pete that recognized him from the channel, even got a free hoodie out of it. And even when you guys left, because one of my friends from Windsor said, "Hey, buddy," he saw that we were there because I posted the lineup that me and you were on. Said, "Could you grab me a shirt?" I said, "Okay. You know, it's Canadian dollars. It could be a little more expensive." And he said, "Yeah, please get it." And while I was there were three people that came up to me. "Are you not in Sea Tranquility? Did I not see Peter Pardo earlier?" "Yes, you did." And just when we were getting in there, it's about six people that came up and acknowledged your channel and recognized that you were there. And it still continued when you left and we said goodbye. I stayed in a line and three or four people came up and said, "Hey, I recognized you guys earlier. Wasn't sure, but I know it's you, right, Rick LaBonte?" Yes. So you're pretty popular in your own city or your own,
Yeah, New York City. That's yeah, especially a show like this. I mean,
right?
to put it mildly, the SOT fans were everywhere that night. It's just there was
Yes, it was.
the whole like before the show was like we were downstairs by the merch place. It's just like every time you would talk to someone, you turn around, someone else came over, someone else is waving from the staircase. It was crazy. But yeah, hey, that's cool. That's to be expected at a show like this in New York City. But last night of the tour, pretty special. I mean, we might as well like start talking about the set list. So again, it's a night with Dream Theater, so there's no opening act. That's kind of how I prefer. I can't even remember the last time I saw an opening act for a Dream Theater show. It's been a long time, especially
Yeah, it was a long time
yeah,
since I've seen with somebody else.
yeah. So we got a two two sets, about 90 minutes each. So it was about a 3 hour show, you know, give or take a little bit. And it started off with some stuff from Scenes from Memory, right? So we got well, first we had
No,
Metropolis Part One, right, from
yeah,
Into the Words, right, and
Yep.
then which was great. I haven't heard them play that live in a while. And then we got Act One, Scene Two, Parts One and Two, the Overture, 1928, and Strange Deja Vu, which I always like hearing. I could hear that
hmm
show, and I'd be totally fine with that, which is really cool. And I like how they kind of revisited so many of the Portnoy albums, which I thought was really, really cool. You know, for the most part, there's a couple they didn't kind of dive into, but we got The Mirror, which was really great. I want to touch on something real quick before we get, I've been reading all sorts of things from the tour, from the beginning of the tour, whatever. Seems like, Dream Theater fans always pick on James, right? I thought that other than a couple of moments here and there when he's singing the older stuff, which you know, he was
It's very
shrieking a lot
demanding.
more back then. He had to do the higher pitch thing way back then. It's singing at the upper register like that all the time he's older now and everything. I thought he was really great this show, like really good. And he got
yeah,
better at as the show got wore on, I thought.
yeah.
Yes.
We were discussing at dinner beforehand, and I was just saying that, like, for people to expect him at his age now, at singing for so many years, to sound like he did way back then, that's just ridiculous.
It's
Like
unrealistic.
it's just not gonna, it's not realistic. It's not gonna happen. And yeah, he's got to find a different way of like singing some of the songs, and it's fine. It's a natural progression of life, and I just accept it and like it for what it is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just you can't live in the past.
And for me as a singer, I thought he delivered what was, you know, uh, you know, enjoyable for all of us to hear, and all the harmonies that him and Michael did in between the songs helped thicken those choruses. It was great to have him back on the backing vocals with them because they did such a great job. And I think the way the set list was done, he was able to, spread his vocal throughout the whole show
Yes.
smartly. You don't burn him out. He did it in a way that he got some challenging songs almost every third song or something like that. So he was able to deliver the goods.
It wouldn't have made sense to do like all the images and words and Awake and all the early stuff all backloaded in the beginning of the set because then by the time you get to the second half, he's already shot. So I think it's nice how they kind of
Right.
sprinkle those older tracks where he's got to do the higher stuff all throughout the set, which I thought
I
was
agree.
a great
I
idea.
agree.
Really great idea. So as we move on, so they did the Mirror, which I thought was really good. Again, what was really cool, there were a bunch of songs in this set that I hadn't heard them play in a while. And as
And the Mirror had the lie outro solo to it,
yes,
which was a nice, if you're a fan, you pick that up. And that's something unique in a concert
oh yeah.
that you just don't get on album. That was cool how they did that. I thought that was tasteful.
Yep, very, very cool. And set one was all about older stuff, right? We got the newer tracks, a couple newer tracks in the second set. So then we went from the Mirror to Panic Attack to Barstool Warrior. And then for me, one of the highlights of the set, and not a song that I've always really liked all that much, but man, Hollow Years was amazing.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
really.
they did it was a very good rendition of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that as well. And
Yeah.
also throughout the entire set, like what I loved were the visuals that were going on the
Oh yeah.
screens.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good point to mention. From the lasers to the production, it made you feel like you were celebrating 40 years. They highlighted they couldn't do every album or every for because the songs are so long, but they made you feel like you went on a time machine journey and went through all those years, showing you the footage and the artwork of all the past albums. But even Hollywood years, if you are a big fan, there is a demo that you can get that shows you that version in 96. And it's just a little extra stuff that they didn't do on record. They played that live. So that was great for any real fan who would know, hey, that's what they did. It's like, somebody following Led Zeppelin and say, hey, they're doing that bit that they do in the song Remains the Same that wasn't on House of the Holy. That was the kind of that thing a fan would know that they used an extended version of Hollow Years, and which was wonderful. I mean, the harmony, the whole crowd sang almost every chorus loudly and proudly because it was resonating so wonderful. It was a great choice of songs so far.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the crowd was totally into it, and then his John Petrucci's guitar solo at the end was just absolutely amazing. Really,
Amazing.
really good. That was one of the highlights for me.
Me
And
too.
then from there, they went into Under a Glass Moon, which is a great song. And another, I'm always amazed. Like the guitar solo in Under a Glass Moon has always been one of my favorite Petrucci guitar solos. And it's amazing after all these years, he still plays it exactly the same. And it's just like it doesn't even have to think twice about it. It's just so good. And give James credit because that's again another one of those songs where he's got to sing in the higher register. I think he's adapted his voice today pretty good to some of the older stuff without feeling like he has to shriek along with everything, which I think is key.
That's right. And they didn't change the key of that song. They kept
No,
it
no, not at
original
all.
all through every song is done just the way you've always heard them. Just that, he had to approach it a little differently. But yeah, right on. Good point.
Yep, yep. And then to finish out the first set was the Dark Eternal Night, which is always lots of fun, heavy as
Yes.
all hell, and I thought it was a great end to the first set.
Now,
Yeah.
just so you know, in some nights, the only song they would change, other than some encores, was The Dark Eternal Night or As I Am, Take Me As I Am.
Yep.
They, depending on the tour and where they're at, they would change that last song before they take that break. But everything pretty much consistent from show to show because of all what Rich mentioned, the production, all the footage and all that stuff goes so well in sync with the song that they're presenting. Even when they do a cartoon that's running behind her, if there's a solo, there's James Labrie in the cartoon form. If there's a bass bit, there is John on the bass. It was so right on. Like that this band don't play on click track like they did with the other drummer. They still play live the way they are, but they're that good that it's in sync with the video.
Yeah, yeah, which is really well done. So it's just it just confirms the meticulous nature of everything that they do, right?
Yes.
That's just the way they are. So as
Yeah.
we were waiting, so we wound up sitting in our seats, and during the intermission, we kind of stayed. We didn't go cavorting around a little, and they were playing this what they call the orchestral overture, and we were just kind of chit chatting, and then Rich leans over to me and goes, "Wait, do you hear that?" He's like, "They're playing like little melodies and things from like a whole bunch of different songs in this overture."
Yeah.
And unless you like start paying attention to it, you're like, "Oh yeah, they are," which I thought was really cool too.
Right. And behind that, with the footage showing every album in order, they're
Yep.
showing you some kind of, we would call it Easter egg back in the day if you weren't looking for them, but it was by delivering little slideshows of showing you the, and it's an animation that's just eye-catching and wonderful to watch, but they went from album to album, album, and we respected the whole discography. Regardless if Portnoy's on it or not, they made sure they showed the whole discography of Dream Theater while you were there
Yeah.
preparing yourself
Which is
for
cool.
that
That's what
second
they should
act.
do. Yeah, it's what they should do. So Act Two, we get Night Terror, Midnight Messiah, of course, from the new album. Some may be like, oh, it would have been cool to hear more new tracks, but as they explain later on in the show, they're actually coming back in the fall and they're going to do the whole new album Parasomnia in its entirety, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I love those two tracks. I actually think they sound better live than they do
Everybody was
on
saying,
the LP
yeah,
because they're just so much heavier
yeah,
in person.
yeah,
They
Yes,
were
and yet
fantastic.
every wow factor why we like those songs, from the solo to the drum fills and that, they played it, folk. They played it. If you didn't think they'd still have it, they do. I mean, it's amazing at their age. You got to be like athletes under instruments because they definitely pulled it off, and it was so exciting to watch them do it. I mean, every nuances, you name it, every little thing that you liked the new album, and you're saying, can they do this? They did it.
yeah, yeah. I loved hearing Stream of Consciousness. In fact,
That was actually my favorite tune of the whole set.
yeah, and
That's amazing.
I actually I've been listening to Train of Thought at the gym the last 2 days, and today I played Stream of Consciousness back to back to back 3 times, which is a good chunk of my workout, of course. But yeah, it's so good, and it was so heavy, and it's just such a dramatic and well kind of arranged song, and it just comes across so well live. And again, another song I haven't heard them play live in a long time. So that was like really surprising to hear. I absolutely loved it because I tried not to pay too much attention to the set list before like we got there. I know Rich, you were popping back on and off.
Yeah.
We usually do that the
I
night of, right? But I try not to in anticipation of the show. I try not to do that too much. I don't mind looking at it while we're there. But I thought Stream of Consciousness was absolutely amazing, and I have to say, uh, we've always thought he's amazing, but man, this guy John Petrucci just keeps getting better and better. Every
He
time
is
I
a
go to see
guitar
this
guy.
band, I walk away and I'm like, God, this guy is just like, is there like no limits to his talents, right? He just keeps doing it all
yeah.
the time.
I
Everyone delivered, every individual, but man, you never cease to amaze me to see that how they can still do what they did even years ago, and and even in the present day, what they still have to deliver.
Yeah.
They're not a one-trick pony. There's so much magic in them. They got so much tricks that they can still pull off. Very good performance for sure.
Yeah. Octavarian.
An epic.
So I leaned over to Rich and I was like, have we seen them play Octavarium in recent years? And he basically said that not since the last radio.
2006.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
That's
was like,
yep.
it's hard to remember when you see him every single tour. Sometimes it's hard to remember
Yes.
when they played these songs last. But yeah, I couldn't really pinpoint hearing that at any other time. But I was like, God, with all the times we've seen them, they had to have played it again before, but apparently not. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't think so.
that was really good.
For the
Yeah.
Toronto show, every song you mentioned so far, Pete, they played, except just before Vacant, they did an extra song that we didn't hear in New York. And this is what I remember set list because I saw Toronto and then I wanted to hear on my car ride home the song order of what they played. And it was This Is the Life. They played
Yeah.
that song, and which was, unique for me to see them perform. But their encores were different than what they did in New York and what they did in Toronto. For
Yeah.
Toronto, they did Act Two, Scene Six, Home, and then the Scene Eight, The Spirit Carries On. And
which
then
are
of course,
amazing, right? That's
yeah,
two of the best pieces from that album. And
yes,
Rich and I were like all gung ho looking for, waiting for that. And then we got the Best of Times, which had never been played live before.
ever.
And it was a tribute to Mike Portnoy's dad, who passed away a few years ago. And they had clips of him and Mike all throughout
Yes,
their life together. And you could tell Mike was just, and then they had Jonathan Dinklage come out and play violin to it. And you could tell Mike was all emotional. In fact, after the song was over, you could see him visibly crying back there behind the drum kit. And that was very cool. That was
yeah.
really, really cool. And yeah, Rich made a comment to me after the show was over because the grand finale was Pull Me Under. And Rich leaned over and he goes, I would have rather heard the two scenes from a memory tracks instead of Pull Me Under any day. And that would have been the perfect end to the show. We may
Yeah.
be in the minority because I mean, I've seen them so many times. I've heard them play Pull Me Under a million times. There's so many other songs I'd rather hear. I mean, I get it. Hometown show, that's their biggest hit. I get it. But to me, I would have loved to have heard those two other scenes from the memory tracks with Best of Times, and that's your encore right there. But it's okay.
But even saying
I
that, even saying that, the song still was great.
Oh, okay, of
It
course.
was
Yeah.
it was still great.
Yes, it was.
absolutely.
It
I
was.
mean, and you know it. There wasn't a person in the room that wasn't affected that was singing along, "Pull Me Under." I mean, by then James have earned his respect the whole night. People are proud of him, and he asked them to sing along, and they did, loud and proud. And I gotta say, "Pull Me Under" was great because when I look around the room, men and women, because that's different from the beginning. They had only men coming to the show. You have women there too, and they're all singing the tune from young to the oldest person in the room. I think that's why they had to do it. I mean, don't forget, Dream Theater has a one album called the greatest hit and other cool songs. They couldn't say hits. They only had the one song. So they had to close with that history. I get it. It makes perfectly sense. I understand why you guys are a fan and spirits carry on is important. But to get a piece of something that no one else saw on the whole tour
Yeah.
by the Best of Times was special. And it's a 13-minute track. So it's a fairly lengthy piece of music, and they played it so well. I was like, wow, this is like for a band that don't play it all the time, you wouldn't know it. It was so well performed, and but it was definitely an emotional thing because later on I would read on a post by Mike saying that it was a salute to his dad because the last time his dad seen him at Radio City Hall was a long time ago, and so this was and I was so special for his dad to see them at that legendary venue and to come back with the family again. And speaking of family,
Where we were sitting, the Portnoy family kept walking
yes,
by us
they
back and
kept
forth.
walking by. The wife and the two kids, Melody and his sons, are coming by, and I recognized him, and he said, Pete said, I think I saw his wife, and sure enough, she stopped right on the row we were at, talking to somebody, and go, oh yeah, there she is. And so it's obviously a big family affair. A lot of people had to come and see this and witness that event, and I'm sure that really hit a chord for all the family members to see their grandfather, father-in-law, whoever is related to Mike's dad, being there in the film. And they showed the pictures of him in youth and before his career and near the end of the Dream Theater days while his father was still alive. So definitely an emotional day. And so I just got to say, it was well worth traveling all the way from Ontario in my van to make sure I got there to hang out with you guys, to see that show, even though I got one different song than the other. Basically, it was well worth.
It was worth it, at least for that one song, right? For sure.
It was, yeah, but it was just to feel the room and to get a unique shirt that's only strictly
Yeah,
made
we all
for
got that.
Radio City.
Show that front again, Rick. So that's the Radio City Music Hall Theater, and we were the only ones who had access to this particular shirt.
That's right. There's no other show. Now, mind you, their date is mentioned in my shirt that I got from Toronto, and it has all the dates from 2024 right up to that very last date up here, and then they show you what's coming up in the summer. So this shirt would be selling for a while. But they did a good summary of 40th anniversary. If you can't possibly play, with all the albums that they have, but with the video and the footage showing you that everything with the story behind these songs, you felt like you saw the whole anthology of the band. It was a great presentation. I'm glad Mike was back on the set list and being in charge of it. I'm glad that they articulated what we needed to hear as a fan for all those different type of music. Everybody has a different period of Dream Theater, I'm sure, that they like, or certain albums. But they made sure that everybody walked away feeling like their belly full of everything they wanted to hear in that Dream Theater diet, if you will, because they delivered, and everybody had a spotlight. Jordan played the keyboard guitar. There was always a little bit of a spotlight on everybody. They picked the right songs that showed off some of that drumming finesse, and of course, on the bass as well, and of course, John Petrucci playing great guitar work throughout the whole night. But the demand would be, how do you deliver that vocally? And me and you can honestly say, even though they did this lengthy tour, which started in October 20th, 2024, right up to the 22nd of March, James delivered. And I seen him in Toronto. I was impressed. He did a wonderful job then too. So I just want to say that for those who, unsure what you can be like at that age, he did a great job. And I think that that's the most important thing, is that Dream Theater is back. And people are going to go want to see him again. This momentum they just did, I think it's just going to give him a shot in the arm for the future. And there'll still be drawing big power, because not everybody got to see Mike Portnoy. There's a whole generation that never saw Mike Portnoy behind that band. And they got more to come. But now to feature new music, new tours, new ideas that's coming out of it, I don't think they're going to be quitting anytime soon. The momentum is in their favor.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, this is one of my favorite shows from them, and I've seen a lot of really good ones. But and I will say, to back Labria once again. So, Rich, I think before this show, the last two times we saw them were in Jersey, correct? Pretty sure.
Geez, where did we see
We
him
saw
last?
one at Count Basie, and then we saw another one down in Jersey somewhere.
Yeah, I don't recall whereabouts we saw them, but yeah, probably most likely Jersey,
Yeah,
I think.
I think the the last tour, he sounded really good as well. The one before that, I remember him not being, he had an off night. And that was one of those shows too, where people were recording on phones and posting it all over YouTube saying, listen how
Oh yeah.
the breeze sounds, right? And I was like, yeah, he didn't really have a great night, but I thought he's the, 2 years ago or whatever it was, he sounded really good. Or was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, the last tour. And I thought he sounded great the other night. So really good. The whole band was great. It was great to have Mike up there. I mean, no disrespect to Mike Mangini, who's an incredible drummer, but there's something about these guys, right? There's something about Mike Portnoy being back on the stage with them. It's a little more personable. He obviously has a connection with the audience. He's like the conductor back there. There's something special about that. And
No, it's his he's got a greater stage presence
yeah,
than Mangini does.
yeah,
Mangini is, doing his thing and doing a great job at it, but he doesn't have the big personality that Portnoy does.
yeah, no,
And like you said, Portnoy is the conductor back there. He's the
He's a
man
showman.
dictating everything.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And he brought a special new kit for that. That was you call it the Purple Monster, or whatever they're calling it.
huge.
Huge. And he would beat the heck out of it, one side of it, and then go to the other side and play on. I mean, he used the whole thing in the whole show. Yes, he was so animated. He was so enthusiastic, but everything he did commanded respect. If he got up to all go like this, everybody got his hands up. If he got it to clap, they clap. I mean, he was just so engaged. he would do the job of most of a frontman would do. You know, now listen, I've seen him with Neil Morris Band, I've seen him with Winery Dogs, I've seen him with Son of Apollo, and he was always that guy.
He is, yeah.
Fantastic performance,
Transatlantic too.
always.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's who he is. Yeah.
that's who he is. But to see him in his home base, you know, his home plate, seeing him doing it with his band of brothers, um, was something to witness. And for me, it was that was what made that night so special. I mean, I enjoyed Toronto. Toronto was amazing too, seeing how many people from all over that in this big arena to see him pack it in like that. But what I like about the Radio City Hall is that I was looking from the side in Toronto. You guys got me seats where I can see him straight
They're
on
right in front.
the
Yep.
whole show, see the production left and right and center. And to me, that was eye candy stuff. It was just way better of experience where we were sitting than I was in Toronto, being off to the side. Even though, the songs were great, but the Radio City Hall acoustically, sonically, really sounds great. We bought a earbud for ear protection or whatever. I'll pull it out just a little bit, and I'm like, it wasn't overly loud enough that you should cover it, but it wasn't loud enough that you couldn't hear everything. Everything was so well mixed, and it helped when we were right behind the soundboard. So whatever they heard or what they were getting, we heard way better probably than anybody else in the room. It was that good, and that's one of the things I wanted to say the most is that it had the power, it had the dynamic, and everybody could be heard. It was, every instrument, everything could be heard. And to me, that is a well mixed show when you don't get the rumble or the bass subwoofer so loud that drowns out some of the other stuff.
It was definitely not the Sons of Apollo show. I'll tell you that much.
No, it wasn't
No,
a Apollo show.
no.
Agreed.
And to your point about how well it sounded, I saw a video someone posted today or yesterday, and usually from their phones, it doesn't sound that great. It sounded perfect.
Yeah, see
It,
that.
it, it was like like a production. It,
Hmm.
it sounded absolutely perfect.
Agreed.
So yeah,
That's a testament to the place. Yeah. I mean, I've
yes,
seen plenty of shows there. We were talking about it the other night while we were waiting online at the merch table. I mean, my first concert there was Iron Maiden and Queensryche on the Power Slave tour. I've seen Deep Purple there. I've seen Dream Theater a couple times. I've seen Black Sabbath there. I've seen Yes there. So quite a few shows. I'm probably missing a couple. And it's always like that there. It's just it. Everybody says, "Oh, Madison Square Garden is the place to be," and all blah blah blah. And I've seen a
no,
million shows at Madison Square Garden. It generally sounds pretty shitty at Madison Square Garden. That's more about just being there. Radio City Music Hall is the place to go hear a really great show.
yep,
Well, again,
totally
thank
agree.
you guys for getting me the ticket, Rich and Pete. I was glad to be there. I was glad to hang out with you guys. That was a good
Fun.
highlight of the weekend. But to witness that special day and watching the emotional, well, it was in Toronto. It was like it was for James night, right? And everybody was acknowledged that we're in James country, and everybody. It was special. It was special Canadian vibe there, and we're proud of our hero. But to see the band, really, celebrating that family reunion, you felt it. Everybody felt it. It was like I'm sure there was a lot of running tears and among emotional audience out there. I was just so pumped and happy to be a part of that. I couldn't, I don't know. I can't express it. I don't even think there was words to describe other than it was wonderful to take it all in and sit back and watch this come down together and like they get
And
the
just
end of the
imagine how
show.
they felt, right? So
It
yeah.
was like a grand finale show for them. I kind of wish they filmed it because it was that good.
I'm really surprised they didn't, but I'm sure, that's a big expense. So
Or maybe they recorded it audio wise, but
that would be cool.
honestly, that would be amazing especially because they added that one song that's never been performed live.
Yeah.
So that would be great. But for the record, I gotta say I've seen quite a few Dream Theater show, but I wasn't as emotionally moved. Like I was just all factor before and just wow, wow. And I was like that even in Toronto. Wow, can't believe it. And it was wow because of the audience. But there I felt like I came to a special chapter in the book and witnessed a real historic moment for the Dream Theater. And it couldn't be better with two other Dream Theater fans like you guys on this channel. So once again, thank you.
And speaking of thanks, I do want to thank once again our good friend and loyal viewer who came in from Minnesota, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
Felipe, for picking me up this very cool Dream Theater hoodie, which I will wear proudly. I don't know if you guys can see the back, but anyway, it's thank you once again. I greatly appreciate it, and it was very kind of you. You didn't have to do that, but um, thank you again, Felipe, and greatly appreciate it. And thanks everybody for watching. If you've been able to see Dream Theater anywhere on this tour, put your comments down below. Let us know what you thought of the show. And now that you heard the set list for Radio City Music Hall and Toronto, let us know if there were any other differences anywhere else. My guess is probably pretty similar, but and if you didn't get a chance to see them on this current leg of the tour, they are coming back. They're going to be going back out to Europe, I think they said, right? That's going to be over the summer for a bunch of dates, and then they're going to come back here to the States in the fall and play all of Parasomnia in its entirety, plus other Dream Theater favorites. So we'll probably get stuff that we didn't hear on this tour. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, so I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Rick and Rich for joining me here tonight to give us this little review. Again, great hanging out with both of you as always, and it was a
And
great
thanks,
show.
Rich, for buying this shirt for me. It's a real treat. Appreciate that.
Very cool. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the
All
damn
the damn
time.
time.
Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Rick LaBonte and Rich Pardo, I am Big Brother Pete Pardo. We'll see you soon here on SOT. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.